Here's the finished ribbon top for my pincushion. This close-up shows the multicolored stitches surrounding the heart embroidery. Now is the best time to remove any of those multicolored stitches that are visible from the front of the pincushion. I'm going to zigzag following the border that I stitched in a contrast color back at the beginning. I'm going to zigzag so the zigzag starts here and goes in towards my ribbons. Whenever I change my stitching, I always test a little sample. So this little bit of zigzagging is a sample. So I changed it so the stitches will be a little closer. The stitches are set on 3 and the zigzag width is set on 3. My goal is to zigzag starting at the border and with the stitch on the left falling to the inside of the border. So I'm going to zigzag all around on the border, and periodically I'll pick up my front and make sure things are flat. So that's the left hand side of my zigzag stitch. I want to start on my right hand side and have the left swing towards the middle. This ribbon rosebud pincushion's front is different than the one we've been using up to this point. Some important things were missing in the film, so I had to refilm everything. So I made a new front for my pincushion. This is just a different front. All the same steps were taken to make it, except I put some initials in the middle so I could custom make this for one person. Here's the ribbon rose front turned to the wrong side. This particular sample has white stitching for the background to make it less cluttered. When I flip this to the right side, what I'm doing is inspecting the zigzagging, and I'm making sure that it catches every one of the ribbons that I've laid down to make the front of this pincushion. This is a little bit off. As long as the zigzag crosses it, I think I'll be fine. But if the zigzagging had completely missed this ribbon, what I would do is I would put another row of zigzagging stitches here to catch the ribbon. Once the zigzagging is satisfactory, I'm going to line the pincushion. I'm going to do that by placing the pincushion front, right side up. I'm going to use some faux suede, cut in an 8x8 square, and I'm going to position it on top of the ribbon rose front, right sides together. From this side, I can see where my stitching lines will be. After testing, we determined this is the best stitch placement for turning the pincushion to the right side. Your stitches should begin a little less than 1/2 inch away from this corner. After securing your thread, stitch around the rest of the pincushion. Stitches should be positioned 1/4 inch from the right-hand side of the zigzag and end here, about 1/2 inch away from turning the corner. My sample will look different. I flipped this piece to the wrong side so you can see where the stitches are. They've been highlighted by white. This area is the area I'm going to use to pull the fabric through and flip it to the right side. My material does not unravel. It doesn't fray, so I trimmed it close to 1/4 inch. But if you have fabric that unravels or frays easily, I recommend cutting the fabric bordering the opening 3/8 inch wide, so that you won't have any trouble catching fabric when you go to sew it down later. it's easier for me to trim most of the project from this side. I try and make sure that I don't trim any of the zigzag stitches, although if you do, it's not that serious. I also don't trim those corners. I just leave them as they are. I don't trim these corners with notches. It's up to you if you want to. I do not. What I like to do is I like to push the corners out using a bamboo knitting needle. Here's my piece turned to the right side. I'm just going to take my knitting needle and make the corners as nice as possible. They don't have to be very pointy. I actually prefer them a little rounded. But if you want them to be more pointy, you probably will have to trim the little notches out of the edges.
Now's a good time to check your needle size. You could get skipped stitches if you don't have a number 14 or larger needle in your sewing machine.
When I'm happy with the shape of my points, I'm going to take this project to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew with a stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'll probably go to a stitch length number 3. I'm going to not stitch on the edge with the opening so that I can stuff it later. I'm just going to add some stuffing. The stuffing's all done, so I'm just going to fold over this edge, pin it, and then stitch it down. I have the piece pinned right here, and I'm just going to run a row of stitching right down here from where my stitches ended, sewing around the outside to around the corner to where my stitches began over here. After I trim these threads, I'm just going to kind of tease the stuffing into this side of the pincushion and it'll be complete.